Hello. So let's recap and summarize the movie Breathe. The scene opens up in Brooklyn, New York in the year 2039, where the world as we used to know has changed. Well, there's not a single strand of grass or greenery or green plants anywhere. So oxygen levels have dropped significantly and our planet is barely habitable. Cities have become wastelands, whole neo noise setting, and only a few people are left from the globe. A dystopian vibe. Those who are still surviving these harsh climates can only do so by using masks connected to oxygen tanks. Currently, mechanical engineer Darius has left his family bunker to clean the solar panels that have been the main source of electricity. His father is also out visiting a nearby bookstore in hopes of getting some new reading material for his granddaughter. While walking around on the second floor, the old man steps on a rotten wood panel and falls through the floor. Unfortunately, he is left hanging upside down, which damages his oxygen pack and immediately starts to suffocate. Nearby, Darius hears the police for help through his intercom device and runs to the bookstore. He desperately tries to release his father from the hole, but the old man's leg remains stuck. Darius then rushes upstairs and eventually manages to free his father, but it is too late. Old people die quickly. Devastated, Darius returns to the bunker where he shares the bad news with his wife Maya and their daughter Zora. This hits everyone hard, especially young Zora, who had plenty of quality time with her grandfather and loved her very much. We also get a glimpse into the family's life in this apocalyptic time. Thanks to Darius's engineering knowledge and Maya's farming experience, the bunker has enough oxygen and food supply to maintain a decently comfortable surviving life. Comfortable is a stretch here, but still above the threshold of good quality life and standard. Darius then announces that he wants to bury his father next to his mother, whose grave is in the cemetery around 5 miles away. Buddha once said that desire is the cause of suffering. Zora is against this idea because of the obvious risks involved in the journey. However, Darius points out that he will be safe since they haven't seen anyone in 3 years. That evening, after the others fall asleep, Darius does routine maintenance on the machine that monitors various vital statistics inside the bunker. He discovers that their remaining oxygen supply will diminish in the next 2 months. The computer even flashes a warning that the air purification system has been compromised, leaving Darius with a hard choice to make. The next morning, he says goodbye to Zora and gives her the book her grandfather had picked up before he died. She then watches as her father leaves with the body on security camera. As the days pass, Zora uses radio to try to reach Darius. She says random stories like how he predicted the oxygen shortage way before it actually happened. Nobody believed him, but at least he is wise enough to build his bunker just before the catastrophe struck. Unfortunately, Darius never answers, and soon 5 months pass without any news from him. Maya and Zora try their best to survive on their own. They leave the bunker regularly and keep up with the maintenance of several devices inside. They always make sure to bring a gun when they go out, but Zora, being a teenager, sometimes wanders off in search of new clothes. Luckily, the bunker has very thick steel door and a password lock, ensuring their safety for the time being. They keep each other company as much as they can, but in quiet moments, Darius's absence is very obvious. Zora, nonetheless, never gives up and continues to send messages through the radio, maintaining communication through him about family memories and what happened before the apocalypse, how things were. Maya doesn't give up either and often goes outside to plant seeds, hoping one day something will eventually sprout. She also runs fake errors on the computer to teach Zora how to fix any issues they may come across. Sometimes a teenager expresses a desire to go out and look for her father, but Maya reminds her of previous failed attempts and forbids her from leaving. This often causes friction between the mother and the daughter. One afternoon, the duo is outside after finishing the maintenance when they suddenly see two people approaching with a shopping cart. The mother and daughter immediately run to hide behind an old car and watch as the strangers try to enter the bunker. Although they are unsuccessful, Maya and Zora find it suspicious that the strangers knew exactly what door to target. At that moment, one of the strangers named Tess hears a noise and cautiously checks around with a weapon drawn. Her partner Lucas, on the other hand, climbs to the roof to search for other entrances. Tess carefully approaches the car but doesn't find the source of the noise. Suddenly, she hears Lucas trying to warn her of something on the radio, but it's too late. Maya and Zora tackle to the ground and rush inside the bunker. They quickly close the door before the strangers can follow them. Maya then gets on the bunker's security communication device and demands an explanation. Tess swears they mean no harm and reveals that she and Lucas live in a bomb shelter outside Philadelphia and 25 other people. Their air filtration system recently started failing, so they traveled for 3 days to find Darius. Tess claims to be a physicist who worked with him at the university. Now she only wants to take a look at the system he created to copy it. Tess even knows Zora and Maya's names, but they still don't trust her because Darius never mentioned her. Suddenly, Zora mutes the mic and starts fighting with her mother over how to proceed. The teenager doesn't want the people at the shelter to die, but Maya doesn't think the shelter even exists in the first place. Always be secure. Be selfish. After lots of arguing, Zora convinces her mom to help because if Tress truly can copy Darius' technology, they could bring big changes to the world. Maya thus tells the two strangers to leave the weapons by the door and wait on their knees. She then comes out with a gun drawn and ties up both of them. Next, Maya checks for any hidden weapons before guiding Tess towards the shelter. Just as they're about to enter, a third stranger named Mika comes out of the hiding and tells them to stop. Maya immediately opens fire while her daughter also comes out and begins shooting. An injured Mika then lunges forward and tackles the teenager into the bunker. Maya uses the opportunity to run inside and close the door, leaving Tess and Lucas outside. Once inside, mother and daughter tie Mika in the living room. Maya then uses the comms to talk to Tess, who explains this is just a misunderstanding. She adds that Micah is a lookout, so when he saw her tied up and being taken away, he thought she was in danger. However, Maya doesn't believe anything she says and tells her to leave. Tess is enraged with the response, so she suddenly changes her tone and announces that she'll get the machine no matter what it takes. That night, Maya decides to interrogate Mika. She starts by asking how he knew about the bunker and Darius's work. Mika responds that he used to be Darius's assistant and also claims to have known Maya's father in law. However, Maya quickly catches him in a lie, as the father in law had died before Micah was even born. Realizing his mistake, Mika changes his approach and says he never intended to hurt anyone. Instead, he was simply trying to help Tess and Luke. The conversation is interrupted when the alarm suddenly goes off and the computer announces the system is compromised. She's also retrieving the weapon Mika dropped while Lucas is using a drill to bring down the bunker door. At this critical moment, Zora gets an idea. She grabs a few mechanical pieces and puts them together to make a little contraption. She then places it against the door and quickly activates it. This sends an electromagnetic pulse throughout the metallic door and breaks the drill outside. Tess is livid that her initial plan has failed but refuses to give up. She climbs to the roof and injects carbon dioxide into the bunker, bringing the oxygen levels severely down. As the alarm goes off, Zora and Maya rush to put on their masks. The latter leaves to take care of the problem, and the teenager stays to keep Mika at gunpoint. But she feels uncomfortable when he starts talking about his young daughter. After a lot of hesitation, she decides to share a mask with him as long as he answers the questions. Mika swears they didn't kill Darius and that Tess truly knew him before the apocalypse. Outside, Lucas is supposed to wait by the door to attack, but he gets distracted when he sees something in a nearby garage. He drags Tess there, but before they can enter, the emergency lock kicks in. At that moment, Maya gets on the roof and opens fire, forcing them to hide for safety. But then the duo also comes up with a plan, and Tess starts firing back while Lucas runs towards the bunker. Back inside, the air slowly becomes clear again, and they can drop the masks. Mika sees that his captor is distracted and uses the chance to untie his ropes. Meanwhile, Tess comes out of hiding with her hands in the air. She pretends to surrender, so Maya makes the foolish error of lowering her guard. Lucas then abruptly jumps her from behind and the two get into a fight. In the ensuing skirmish, Maya gets trapped in an air vent and fractures her leg. Inside the bunker, Mika manages to free himself and springs a surprise attack on Zora. He then ties her up at gunpoint, but by this time he has lost a lot of blood. Before Mika can take further action, he feels dizzy and giddy and falls dead on the floor. Minutes later, the two remaining strangers uncover the camera while holding Maya hostage. They threaten to shoot her if the teenager doesn't open the door. Unbeknownst to them, the security microphone is still muted and Zora has no way to explain herself. Thankfully, she notices Mika's radio lying nearby and drags it by using her legs. Zora then manages to establish communication with outsiders and tell them everything that has happened inside the bunker. Enraged, Tess demands Maya to open the door from outside, but the latter reveals that a special badge together with a code is needed to do so. She has forgotten the badge inside, but there's another one which is slightly far from where they are currently. Maya adds that she has a working car, and Tess eventually agrees to leave with her, while Lucas stays to keep watch. During the ride, Maya explains that they are going to find Darius. It turns out, after he left to bury his dad, Maya found a note in which he explained that the machine couldn't keep the air clean for three people more anymore. But with only two residents, there would be more time for Zora and Maya to figure out how to plant the seeds. This means Darius truly is dead and he didn't return to the bunker on purpose. A few hours later, Maya locates his body and takes a moment to grieve before finding the badge. The duo is now ready to head back, but just then the car runs out of power. Tess asks for the badge as she points out Maya can barely move with a broken leg. There's no way she'll survive a trip back on foot with such an injury. Tess confesses that she also used to have a daughter and promises to take good care of Zora. These words finally convince Maya and she gives her the badge without any further arguments. Following this, Tess starts running back and eventually finds a bicycle in the middle of the city. She soon reaches a destination and enters the bunker with Lucas seconds before they run out of air. Once they're inside, Zora demands to know where Maya is, so Tess tells her everything, including her father's sacrifice. But Lucas is in no mood for chit chat and he threatens Tess to immediately start working on the machine with a drill. Shortly after, she opens a panel in Darius's invention and finds a very advanced system. She dwells on it for a while, but eventually admits that she doesn't understand enough to recreate it. Unfortunately, this sends Lucas over the edge and he ends up shooting Tess on the spot. He then turns his attention towards Zora and orders her to teach him how to use it. Elsewhere, Maya sits in the car while thinking about her family. She notices that only 21% of the oxygen is remaining and concludes nobody will come for her before it runs out. Everything looks bleak until her eyes fall on a little plant starting to grow out. Maya then takes a gamble and removes her mask for a second. To her surprise, the air feels like it's getting cleaner, filling her with renewed hope. Elsewhere, Lucas throws the dead bodies out to get rid of the smell. Zora chastises him for staying here instead of going back to help his shelter, but he simply doesn't care. At this moment, the alarm goes off, announcing a problem with the clay cables. Lucas then unties Zora so she can take care of it, but only gives her enough oxygen to prevent her from escaping. Shortly after, she gets to the roof and puts the cables back together, only to discover that it was Maya who messed with them. After a warm reunion with her mother, Zora tries to get back inside, but won't open the door because he wants to see the teenagers suffer. He doesn't realize that this only gives mother and daughter enough time to hatch up a plan. Sometime later, the bunker's alarm goes off again, so Lucas comes out and sees Zora lying unconscious on the ground. He throws dirt at her and starts praying, but is suddenly ambushed by Maya. The teenager also gets up and they run back into the bunker. But Lucas gathers all his energy and follows them in. He passes through the first door and tackles them to get through the second, causing the bad air to get into the shelter. He then demands oxygen while threatening the woman with his weapon. However, Zora points out that if he shoots, he'll cause an explosion. Lucas orders them to fix the problem, but instead, Zora and Maya go outside and close the doors, leaving him alone inside. At that, Lucas is alone and the oxygen is slowly running out. He realizes that he's going to suffer a slow death. He does shoot his weapon and does the resulting explosion kills him. Outside, Maya and Zora are able to survive thanks to the oxygen mask. They escape into the car that Maya had charged up when she came back to the bunker earlier. They then recall Tessa's story about the shelter and zoom through the city to reach the safe haven. Unfortunately, the doors are closed and they pass out on the stairs later. After a long while, Maya wakes up and is shocked to see herself clean and rested. Turns out the people from the shelter heard the mother and daughter approaching and rescued them. Nearby, Zora is sharing the knowledge about her father's machine with the technicians of the shelter. The mother and daughter then promise to work together with the rest of the survivors in planting the new seeds and bringing back vegetation and the whole old life to the world.